Today, I am going to attempt one of the craziest Minecraft challenges ever conceived. The old netherrack might have given it away, but yes, this is a pre-update nether. I am in Minecraft version 1.15.2. That means there aren't any warped woods or crimson forests to get wood from. But not all hope is lost, because I have a big brain. Mushrooms grow everywhere. That would be a good thing, but I have no way to make a bowl, so they are useless. For now, the only thing I can do is gather this glowstone. Then I need to look for soul sand and gravel. Traversing the nether is difficult, but not impossible. Just take your time and watch out for holes. Now, many of you would be terrified of my friend here, but I don't want you to worry because he is here to help me. He knows that without a pickaxe, I have no way to gather netherrack. So, he is going to break some of these blocks for me. I just need to punch the fires out and pick up the blocks while staying clear of his very helpful explosions. Just like that, I have 26 netherrack in no time. Sometimes the gas will take a break, so I gather glowstone in the meantime while I wait. Gathering blocks is the most important thing to do early on, because eventually my hunger bar is going to deplete and I'm going to get hurt. So I need to make that food machine as fast as possible. Yes, I know a way to mass produce food, and this netherrack is going to help me do it. It would also be a good idea to gather blocks before you go into a nether fortress. There's virtually nothing you can do to survive in this world without having some blocks. So just get some. This patch of gravel is too far out of reach, which bums me out. Nothing I can do about it but press on and continue my search for both soul sand and gravel. I honestly like the way the old nether looks. I feel like it's greatly underappreciated. I think the ghast are getting lazy. This one went for a swim and then just despawned. What a jerk. I'm not a fan of spots like this, but I know how to handle them safely. That being said, I don't know any other way to cross lava except by towering. I'm just lucky the ghast left me alone. Good thing too, because I finally found soul sand. I made my way down and attempted to make this lava fall safe. But because I had no clue what I was doing, I failed brilliantly and almost burned to death, which happens way too often. After such a close call, I decided to chill out here and collect as much of this soul sand as possible. I'm going to need quite a few stacks of this stuff before I leave. The more I take, then the better I'll feel about it. I'd rather have too much than not enough. After a while, I moved on from the hollowed out sand pits and hoped to find a good spot to set up my base. Some of the blocks are used to travel, which is half the reason you need them. Thanks to the soul sand, I was able to tower over to a gravel beach, where I started collecting stacks of that as well. The reason we need gravel is because it is affected by gravity, and that is going to help us do two things. It can help us get down from high places, and it can also do damage. I got lucky and I stumbled across another fortress not too far from the beach. So without wasting any time, I made my way over to it and looked for a way inside. I made some steps quickly and hopped up only to be greeted by an angry ex-employee who was upset about the amount of pay they received for their work. Which was none, so I ran. Wither skeletons are extra tall, so they can't follow you if there is only a 2-block gap. You definitely want to sneak around carefully and place blocks across the ceiling and hallways, so you will have safe spots to retreat to. I found my first chest pretty easily. Let's open it up and see what's inside. The flint and steel is nice, but everything else is pretty much useless. The chest is important though, so we need to grab every single one. I heard this wither skeleton fall outside and thought it might be nice to get some free XP. His coal and bones will also be useful to me later. This skeleton surprised me and I knew I had no way of fighting it, so I boxed myself in. I wanted to kill it, so I tried to taunt it over, and that was a pretty bad idea because this block disappeared when I placed it. Somehow I managed to survive. And then I proceeded to smash the skeleton's toes until he died. Believe it or not, the same thing happened a second time in the exact same spot. This time I simply waited for the skeleton to walk by, but I missed my punch, so I just blocked him in that area. I've died too many times in past runs, and I do not want to start over. You will master the art of placing these blocks quickly, or you will die. I don't make the rules, I just follow him. By now, I probably should have left the fortress, but I was determined to find more loot inside of this place. Most of it wasn't going to benefit me right now, but I was hoping to find a few specific things. Believe it or not, I actually found them. One of those things was a sword. And some armor. I feel like I've been rewarded for coming into this place. I now have everything I need to keep going. I have gotten this far before, but somehow I felt much more optimistic this time. I stayed a while and looked in a few more chests before leaving and looking for a good spot to build. This time I was able to successfully make a lava fall safe. Then I began construction by punching a hole 2 blocks deep into the ground. This spot was perfect. I made a U shape around the hole and began towering up, forming a tube with a doorway on the side. Then I made a staircase out of soul sand and glowstone leading up to the rim of the tube. I used the glowstone because I ran out of netherrack already, and the glowstone wouldn't slow me down. Next, we needed a stairway down to the bottom of the tube, where the chests will be placed, because the chest isn't a full block, and we need that gap to get out items and XP. The last thing you want is for a gas to come along and blow up all of your hard work. I promise you it will happen. So this time, I'm building a wall around my new Pigman Crusher 9000. Without this amazing invention of mine, we won't be able to get food. So I absolutely cannot afford to let it be harmed. That's why I spent so much time digging up the extra soul sand. And even though I could die and lose this world from simply falling off of this thing, the challenge is basically impossible to beat without this contraption, since the only food that we can obtain, without a lot of luck, is some rotten flesh. Using the Pigman Crusher 9000 is very easy. You simply need to convince the pigmen to follow you inside of the crusher. I do this by giving one a little tap before running back to the stairs, and hopping up to the top of the pipe where I remove the soul sand block that keeps the pigmen from falling inside. Then I crouch over the top of the pipe and watch the pigmen get trapped at the bottom, where they will wait for their doom. Can you guess what's coming next? We just need our most powerful weapon, gravel, the bane of all things breathing. Once trapped inside, no creature can escape the strangling grip of 2 simple gravel blocks. And down they go. Ah, it's like sweet, sweet music to my ears. I go down to check the coast is clear, and I was ambushed by a ghast. If it wasn't for this wall, my Pigman Crusher would have been damaged for sure. I am very glad I built it, and I will probably build more. The pigmen will drop us food and XP, but that is not all. We might even get weapons and gold from these guys. But the most important thing is the food. It's literally the worst food you can get, but it is food. And if I sit still and eat it, I will heal. Eventually. But I have to eat a lot of it, so we might as well start crushing and stocking up on this stuff. I don't think there is a limit to how much I am going to need, and if my inventory gets too full, I have the chest to store things in. But this isn't the only food we can get from zombie pigmen. On a rare occasion, a baby zombie pigman will spawn on the back of a chicken. There are ways to remove the baby without triggering the pigmen, but sometimes they just jump off the chickens. Luckily for me, this happened, and I used pro speedrunner tactics to get myself some real food. This chicken was going to come in handy sooner than I expected. I was on my way to search the fortress one more time and look for some chests when I decided that it would be a smart idea to carelessly run through waves of fire from blazes. I really should have known better, but maybe the success so far has made me overconfident. I swear sometimes it feels like I have a guardian angel watching over me. I knew that I probably wasn't going to find any more chests in here, but while I look, I can also collect some bones and other things. I was actually even hoping that these wither skeletons would drop me some stone swords. These gold ones break entirely too fast. I can repair them thanks to my Pigman Crusher, but it takes way too much time. I was surprised to find out that there were a handful of chests that I hadn't discovered yet. Since I missed those, it was probably a good idea to keep looking around. I guess I should talk about my goals for a moment. The first goal, of course, is to survive, obviously. The second goal is to find obsidian. If I manage to find enough obsidian in the fortresses, I could make a portal and escape. Me and my brother agree. If you can escape the old Nether, that is impressive. But why stop there? Why not get one dirt block and a sapling before heading back into the portal and stay in the Nether for a full 100 days? So that is my final goal. First we escape, then we come back and stay for a full 100 days. That being said, I have a sneaking suspicion that I will need to visit more fortresses before I find enough obsidian. I already had 4, and now here's 3 more. And that leaves only 3 left to find. Maybe I won't have to travel out as far as I imagined. I went back to the base and began getting ready for the trip ahead. I probably had more than enough supplies to go, but I wasn't going to take any risks this time. I refused to let this be another failure. I made sure to lure every pigman near the base into the crusher, and somehow, these normal zombies had spawned nearby. The only reason I can imagine they would be here is because the zombie pigmen, they may have the ability to spawn back up when attacked, just like overworld zombies. That means we also have access to anything that a zombie can drop us, in due time. If anyone knows more about this, then please let me know in the comments section. I was minding my own business when yet another ghast decided to give me a migraine. I just ignored it and picked up the blocks while hoping it would go away. This actually worked, and I wish the ignore it and it will go away method worked more often. With that, I decided it was finally time to make my way back to spawn. Now, I have a confession. I went on Chunk Base and saw that there were 2 fortresses that I had passed on my way to my current location, so I went straight to them without hesitation. I am always surprised, but happy to see when there are no mobs waiting for me. That doesn't mean that they won't eventually show up. Always keep your eyes open and watch your back, because when you least expect it, you get spanked by a blaze rod. Honestly, just the sound alone startled the heck out of me. I nearly had a panic attack. Too many times have I lost a hardcore world to silly mishaps. Not gonna happen today. I'm tired of not using this sword. What is the point of having it if I'm not gonna use it? I had a bit of a close call here. Luckily, this wither skeleton chose to chill for a moment and let me finish what I was doing. There were 3 of those bad boys waiting for me in this hallway, so I'm really glad that I used the sand to block them in while taking my time. It's always better to be safer than sorry when you're playing in hardcore mode. I chopped down the last skeleton and was the lucky winner of today's stone sword prize. I picked it up and skipped down the hallway where I spotted yet another treasure chest. Wow. I wanted to jump out of my seat and scream. I felt like a true gamer. I wasted no time and began building the portal right where I found the last 3 obsidian, and I lit it. Now I know what you're thinking. There is no way it was this easy, and I'm here to tell you it wasn't. I once found a hallway with 6 chests in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not a single one had obsidian. I've died and burned and exploded. A child avenged the murder of its people. Magma cube mothers are very protective of their children. And there is lava falling from the sky, so pay attention. And if you have food, eat it before you are dead. Being able to finally survive long enough to build this portal is enough to brag about all on its own. But things weren't about to get any easier. The entire time I was out here, I worried that I might be attacked by phantoms or drowned with a trident. Either one of those things could easily end this here and now. Quickly, I swam for the nearest island I could spot that had trees. The sun was rising, but sadly the rain was going to make sure that these mobs would be around to give me a fight. I punched away at my first tree ever, while being constantly assaulted by armies of the undead. I had to fight very carefully or these guys would surround me for sure. I was starting to feel like I was much safer inside of the Nether than out here in the overworld. Once I have vanquished the enemies completely, I finished gathering a couple of logs, grabbed that dirt block, and an oak sapling. This is all I'm allowed. The only reason I gathered a bit of wood is so that I could make a crafting table and craft a boat so that getting to the portal wouldn't take so long. And I wasted no time getting back to that portal because I honestly was really excited to get back to my base with these new resources. So many possibilities have just opened up, and the rest of my 100 days should be a lot less stressful. I'm so happy that these Blazy Boys can't even keep me down. I just obliterate them and move on like it's nothing to me. I looted a few more chests, and then decided it was time to go home. Wow, isn't this crazy? The Nether is starting to feel more like home to me than anywhere else. And finally, it was time to craft our very first pickaxe. Just being able to break blocks feels like some kind of awesome power. I need to start gathering lots of netherrack. I also found out that it's possible to mine nether quartz with a wooden pick. Then I realized I could make a diamond pick and a sword. Of course, they will eventually break, but I always have the ability to go find more diamonds at different fortresses. For now, I need to hollow out a big hole to plant trees in. I don't want to risk losing my only dirt block and sapling to a ghast explosion. Plus, all of this netherrack was going to help me big time with the wall I have planned to go around my area. Simply light the place up with glowstone and place the goods in the center. First, our sacred dirt block, and then our little oak sapling. Slap on some bone meal and presto, you have a fully matured oak ready for harvest. I can only do this until I run out of bone meal, and then I'll have to wait patiently for the next tree to grow. Then again, I could always go farm out some more bones to speed things up a bit. Right now, I just want to collect a good amount of logs and saplings while I just rest and take a breather. The very moment I went outside, I was ambushed by yet another ghast. That is the final straw. I am building another wall right now. It won't exactly be pretty, but it will keep me out of the line of sight of these random ghasts. It might also help keep the dang things from wandering over here. The hardest part of this is going to be finishing it without getting shot off. So I resort to sloppily chucking down blocks in a hurry. I made a few doors for the wall, and the zombie pigmen informed me that they were not going to stay there. So I swapped them for fence gates. I crafted this golden apple from our very first apple. This is the best food we can get. But that's not all. I can also craft bowls now, and make mushroom stew. I guess that means I need to plant some more mushrooms around and wait for them to spread. It feels so good to have a renewable food source. I mean, one that is less immoral at least. I continued working on the base using any of the blocks that I had laying around. I also made a pair of shears, which I broke quickly collecting leaves. I made a few torches out of the coal that dropped from wither skeletons, and then went up to the top of the wall to line it with magma blocks. This was going to look good and help the mushrooms grow, if I could just get it finished. After a short break, the guest eventually left, and I was able to get the job done. And then I continued decorating the base a bit. I felt like the leaf blocks kind of looked like vines or something. It looks pretty good in my opinion. I was starting to get obsessed with walls. They make me feel so safe that I think I want even more. I am tired of being surprised by ghasts every few minutes. The mushrooms were starting to spread very nicely with the dim light covering our base. I spotted a new gravel beach and towered over to it, made my way down, and started digging it all away. Having tools made the process a lot more enjoyable. I used the few blocks I have to decorate my bridges a bit. Just because I'm limited to like 10 blocks doesn't mean I can't have nice things. It works out really well too because nothing looks out of place. Just look at this spiral staircase I've made from soul sand and gravel. And this glowstone bridge over here. I think this stuff looks great. Back at the base, I processed more lumber while contemplating my next move. I made some more soup bowls and went out to survey the area a bit and see if I could spot anything interesting near my base. I found absolutely nothing and made my way back home only to be greeted by yet another ghast. I waited for him to split and rushed into my tree room. The next day, I found another one, trapped under the giant mushroom I had grown. This time I showed the pest who it was messing with, and collected its tears as a trophy. After the successful growth of the giant mushroom, I thought it might be a good idea to attempt growing even more giant mushrooms. It was a really good idea. I quickly learned that breaking a giant mushroom block with a wooden hoe in this version doesn't cause any wear on my tool. Despite my aggression towards these annoying ghasts, they continue to trespass on my property. Go on, get! I had a dream that night of a mystical mushroom forest, so I had no choice but to get out of bed and begin construction. You have to grow the mushrooms on a dirt block, but when they are done, you can just remove the dirt block and use it again. So I moved the thing around and spread these giant mushrooms all over the area. It was starting to look good, and I was pretty happy with the idea overall, when of course yet more gas came to destroy my hard work. I'm gonna need another wall. The Nether is going to end up being an endless plain filled with walls. That's going to be the only way I can have anything. Now, I didn't record every last moment of this playthrough, mostly because I don't have hard drive space. And because of that, I don't have footage of absolutely everything. Like this bow dropping from a skeleton. This is so much safer than running out and punching a pigman. Next stop, mushroom wall. I wasn't going to let these nerds blow up my beautiful mushroom forest. So I used every last stack of netherrack to build another wall to protect it. I used magma on the top so the mushrooms would have plenty of light, but not too much. The zombie pigmen seemed to already be curious. I used most of my blocks, so it was a good time to go and restock on everything. This time I have a pickaxe though, so I can collect quartz as well. The ghasts found me, and I taught them yet another lesson, and then went on about my day pretending they didn't bother me. But they did. After a few hours, I went home and dropped everything off. Another day had come, and I was hungry for treasure. So I made my way to a fresh nether fortress and started swiping all of its iron, gold, and diamonds. I even found more obsidian. Whoa, what if I could build another portal? I should try to beat the game. Let me know in the comments section if you want to see me beat the game in this challenge. Or maybe you would rather see me survive another 100 days of the Nether after this world has been updated. Either way, just tell me what you want to see, and it might just happen. I was getting swarmed by ranged mobs like skeletons and blazes, so I took a break and went home to make myself a brand new diamond pick. To celebrate, I chopped off the legs of this Enderman. Speaking of beating the game, I'm now in possession of one Ender Pearl. This made me realize that I probably needed more blaze rods, so back to the fortress I go. The tunnels have lots of exposed quartz ores, so I stopped to mine them along the way. I don't know what I'll do with all of it, but I want the XP. The wither skeletons must have known that Halloween was close, so they made sure I got a mask just in time for the holidays. I'll be putting that on in a minute. After some combat, I began mining up more nether bricks, but halfway through I stopped to put my new mask on. Spooky! I used the new bricks to build a staircase down to the lava in front of my base. I wanted to use the nether bricks for the blast-resistant properties. That should keep explosions from erasing our steps. I wasn't even sure why I was doing this, but I had developed a few good ideas while I was busy bopping. As I suspected, the nether bricks worked perfectly. Unfortunately, this will not save me from gas spawning in this one spot over and over, but I don't think anything will. Back down the steps, and I start building a netherrack walkway across the lava, and then I tunnel through the mass on the other side until I see light again. I set up a little guardrail here to keep me from falling into the lava. I looked it up, and nether wart blocks exist in this version of the game, so I made some from all this worthless nether wart in the hopes that it would make a nice floor. I rushed to the new spot once again and started working on my new build, which should be the safest structure I can build from the materials I have access to. The shape is very similar to the base I built in my first 100 days video, but the scale is much smaller. That base was made mostly of stone as well, so I guess you can't really say that they look similar at all, but I already did, so. I wanted to spend more time on it, and I wanted it to be bigger, but the threat of being knocked to my death by a ghast was just too high. So I built this thing as quickly as I could. The results speak for themselves. But I still think the place looks pretty good for a hardcore nether challenge build. I'm gonna have to do something about these door smashers. Here we go. Automatic doors. Beautiful. I survived in nether hardcore mode and escaped, only to come back and stay for a full 100 days. Don't believe me? Here's the day counter. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I want to thank my channel members for supporting me. I'll see you all next time, and until then, stay golden.